And then one thing led to another, and wow, what do you know? I'm a publisher now,
Wow.
So, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take this to the next level. I'm going to actually make a publishing company.
Hey, Atarians. Today we got two special guests with us. One is a longtime friend of the channel and somebody that has been a huge part of the Discord for a long time. Braillynn is here. Braillynn, how you doing?
Doing good. Hello, everyone.
Good to see you. Glad to have you on finally. We've been talking for a while about maybe having you contribute a little bit to the Atari Network, giving it more of that network feel instead of just being me rambling on every single video. So I'm glad we can finally do something.
Yeah.
But we're also excited to have a very special guest today, a gentleman from Lucid Potato Games, going by the name Tater Pants, up-and-coming VCS developer who will hopefully be putting out a lot of games this year. Tater Pants, how you doing?
Pretty awesome. Glad to be here, man.
Good. We're glad to have you, and it's awesome having a VCS developer here with us because the VCS, there's a lot of questions about it right now. It's kind of up in the air, I think, for fans with the DLC of the Atari 50th not coming out to Atari's own platform, and with some other things like the new Fatal Run game probably not seeing a release. Some people are hesitant to commit to the VCS, or they're wondering if the VCS has a long-term viability. So as far as Atari goes, I think that's a big question. But as far as third-party developers go, I think people like Tater Pants and companies like Lucid Potato Games are going to keep it going for a very long time. So we're excited to feature people such as yourself on the channel. Would you like to maybe introduce us a little bit to who you are, what you've done in the gaming industry or homebrew industry?
Sure. Well, I've been behind a keyboard since 1984. Oh, wow. So I've been in the industry for 40 years, and I've led various groups and small outfits in the past. My last one before joining on with Sauropro was a small group called Frozen Utopia, and we released one game on the TurboGrafx 16 called Mysterious Song. It's a old school Japanese style console RPG. And since then, after that, I joined on with Sauropro, and we released FX Unit Yuki, which originally was on the PC Engine, and then we had a PC port that we had planned, and we did a Kickstarter for it, and one of the stretch goals for the Kickstarter was a Genesis port and a Dreamcast port, and those were outsourced to a company called JoshProd, and I believe Pixel Heart was the publisher on those, which also got a release on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, wow.
And the PC port has been coming for a while because, I wanted to personally handle it because I wanted it to be the best possible version it could be. And perfection takes time. What can I say? And so the PC version is finished. It is scheduled for release. And along the way, we had a big fan of FX Unit Yuki. And he's also a very big fan of the VCS. And he's like, I would really like to see FX Unit Yuki come out on the VCS. So he had reached out to Saramaro at one point, and I don't know the details of exactly what happened with that, but eventually he also reached out to me and connected me with the business development guy at Atari. And so So, I got on the platform. It's a very easy platform for me to use. And so I began the process of converting the PC version of FX Unit Yuki to the VCS, which, to be frank, was not difficult. The only problem we had along the way was some library compatibility issues, but that took a few months to sort out. And actually, one of the other developers on the VCS helped me sort all that out, which was nice because it means to me that other developers helping other developers.
Yeah, absolutely. That what I love about that story, and not to cut you off, but it goes to show that if there is a game that you want to see on the VCS, just reaching out to the developers, the companies, it's worth the time and effort to do, because it sounds like had this person not reached out to you, you might have, I mean, maybe you would have found your way to the platform eventually, but it sounds like this person reaching out to you really introduced you to the idea of publishing and developing onto the VCS, which I love. I mean, I hope more people do that in the future, especially if they have other games that they want to see brought to the console. So I love that part. And I just want to ask real quick. So it sounds like you're primarily PC engine, or
Yeah, that's always been my platform of choice. Just because it's the TurboGrafx 16 was a console I grew up with, and so I've owned all kinds of other consoles. I've even owned the Atari Jaguar. So
oh wow.
So and my first console was the Atari 2600.
Oh, cool.
Way back in the early 1980s.
Wow. Yeah. So it's funny too. I mean, again, the Atari 7800 is the console that I've gravitated towards, and I had that growing up. But I've also had, like you said, other consoles. I've actually never had the PC Engine or the Turbo Graphics. That's probably one of the few I haven't had. But it's just funny how we cling to certain consoles, certain memories. It seems like for some reason certain consoles speak to certain people, and it's just interesting to me which ones people cling on to.
Knowing that the VCS maybe doesn't have the largest user base, and the console doesn't have the best reputation at the moment. What inspires a developer to even look at the VCS, despite those circumstances?
Well, for me, I think the biggest thing is the ease of deployment. The VCS is basically just it's a mini computer, and so basically it's a little Linux box, kind of like an Android, but in console form. So for me to take a game that I made on the PC and put it on the VCS, there's a lot less challenge for me to actually get a game on the platform. So I think for me the biggest attract is just how easy it is, and I think another thing is the fan loyalty to the console. That's both a good thing and it can be a bad thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword because you have people who are willing to buy pretty much anything, which is the good part. And then the bad part is you have people who are willing to buy pretty much anything. It's the same thing. It's just depends on how you look at it, because you could put out a piece of absolute trash on the console and someone's going to buy it because they're so starved for new software, and some people are going to exploit that, and I hate that. If I make a game, I'm going to make the best game possible, and it doesn't matter how large the audience is. It's going to be the best game I can make. Wish that more developers would take that approach. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. And we love to hear that you're striving for quality again, especially given that, like you said, you could literally put anything out on the console, and we are starving. I mean, so far this year, we are recording, in the early part of February. There's only been 2 releases so far this year on the VCS, and it doesn't seem that there is a whole lot more that we know of. Again, there will be more. We're not updated on every single release, but we are a little starved for games right now, and people want games, period. But knowing that we're getting good games is a good thing. So again, the VCS, you said it's the ease of use to porting to it. It's basically the loyal fan base.
Yeah.
Again, a little bit speaking to the developers you spoke with already, that sort of community, was that a sort of draw too, that camaraderie, building relationships within the community and stuff? Did that draw you towards the platform at all as well, or?
That didn't specifically draw me towards the platform, but it certainly contributed to the fact that I'm staying with the platform. Having other people who have a lot of experience with the system really helps a lot. So, if I have any kind of technical question at all, I can just go on to the developer Discord, and, I can just ask. And it may take some time, but I'll almost always get an answer to any question that I have. And, I don't have very many questions, but, when I do, then, I ask and it gets answered. I give a good example, which I was working on a project using Unity, because Unity is very heavily supported on the VCS.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some of my projects are version locked to an older version of Unity. And, that's pretty commonplace. Like if you look at games like Genshin Impact, it's a version locked to like 2017 build of Unity. And so a lot of my games are version locked to a 2019 build. And someone was like, you should probably update it because, more recent versions of Unity are more efficient and they run better on the VCS. So I was like, okay, I'll see if I can do this. And so I upgraded to a 2021 version, I believe. And I also switched the rendering to the URP render pipeline instead of using the built-in one, because the URP is more efficient. So I was like, immediately the changes were obvious. My game ran way more. It was way more performant, ran way better. I was like, yeah, this was a good idea to upgrade to this. So I would not have done that if not for, that one developer in the community suggesting that I do.
Oh,
because
wow.
I mean, version locked is one thing, and I'm also pretty stubborn when it comes to my versions. So
yeah, I can relate to that. I'm kind of stubborn on my video editing software, where I know I could upgrade to better stuff, but I don't, because I like what I like.
yeah.
So awesome. And just a quick follow up now, is that a similar experience among all console development communities? Do you have the same experience in the PC Engine community or in the PC development community, or is the VCS just a bit more welcoming, perhaps? Or
The VCS has probably been the most welcoming in terms of developers.
Right.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people are there because they love the console and they love the brand, and so they want to try to do the best they can. And I think that contributes to it a lot. In other scenes, not so much. Like I don't think I've ever even asked for help or had any kind of collaboration with anything having to do with the PC, except for one very minor thing when I was dealing with the library issue at one point. The guy I was talking to was actually pretty nice about it, and he explained things to me really well. So I mean, I did have one positive experience there, but like when I went on Unity's help forums or tried to get help with Unity, oh man,
wow,
jerks left and right.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I was like, no, you people are awful. But in the PC Engine space, there's hardly anyone else,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, there are so few PC Engine developers, it's not even funny.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'd say at least half of the few that are there because of me. Because
Wow.
I did a bunch of tutorials, like, oh God, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. It was ages ago, maybe longer ago. That
Wow.
it would I explained how to like set up a PC Engine game, and like here's how to use sprites, here's how to use tiles, here's a crash course on state machines, really basic stuff.
Wow.
But I wrote it in such a way that it was very, very approachable. And so, someone with, very little coding experience or even no coding experience could read it and understand what to do. And they could become a programmer, from
Wow.
whatever level of programming experience they had.
Wow, that's impressive. So when it comes to PC Engine, you probably get a lot of questions then, being kind of the guy, huh?
Yeah, I do. And especially now, because now there's been kind of a revival
Mm,
of the homebrew scene in the PC Engine,
wow.
because we have a dedicated developer working on the tool chain. There's like
Ah,
a new tool chain for us, and my game Nyanja, the one that I'm working on with SourPro, with SourMaro, uses the cutting edge version of that compiler.
mm,
So we are literally on top of the tech, which is interesting to say that for a console that's ancient.
right. Well, we know all about ancient consoles here, that's for sure. But
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I figured the PC Engine would have such a strong fan base that there would be a huge homebrew community. I'm surprised that it's sort of a new thing or a developing thing, I guess.
Well, the
So
fan base is one thing.
yeah.
The fan base is huge. It's actually very similar to the VCS, which is actually one of the reasons why I liked the VCS fan base so much.
Mm,
Is because it is so similar to the PC Engine fan base. People are fiercely loyal. But in terms of the PC Engine, there's way more fans, way more actual players than there are developers,
right.
because it is a more difficult system to work with.
Obviously the PC Engine and the VCS, I guess the amount of developers is pretty low. So for anyone who's thinking about wanting to create a game for either system, what words of wisdom would you impart on them?
Be stubborn. Be stubborn. Be persistent. Making games is not easy, and it's like, especially for the PC Engine, it's an uphill battle. You have a lot to learn, but stick with it and don't give up. I know that's very, very generic advice, but hey, it's the advice I go by. So just don't quit. It's easy to quit, especially when you run into the hill that you will have to climb.
Right. That's good advice because yeah, I took a look at programming before and to me it was just too much. So
Mm.
I do think it has to be somebody that's very driven to see their vision come true. So that's awesome advice. El Pandero, how do
El
we say that?
Panadero.
Oh, okay, the baker is what I'll say.
Yeah.
So this is your game, correct?
This is a game that I published on the VCS. It was actually developed by a Sketchy Ceviche, who is a Mexican living in Japan,
Oh wow,
which is a very interesting combination, to
yeah,
say the least.
yeah, that's a culture shock, I'm sure. Wow. So you published this, so you basically helped. What for those that don't know, does a publisher do?
In
How do
my
you?
case, I will promote the game, and I will be the one to handle things. Basically the distribution, and I handle the money aspect of, like, like royalty payouts, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So was it your
And
idea to bring it to the BCS, or was that something that they wanted you to handle for them?
No, it was entirely my idea. In fact, I didn't even know that I was going to become a publisher. I've been a game developer, just a game developer for, like I said, 4 decades. So
that's funny because
so
me and Braillynn were talking before you got on stream here about your involvement with the game, and I said I thought maybe you published it, and Braillynn said no, he's a developer. So, but glad
yeah,
we put.
I am both now. So yeah, the
Which do you prefer, development or publishing?
publishing is easy. It's easier, but I prefer developing because that's where I really get to use my creative sense. For this, I didn't do much in terms of the development. I did some localization for this because he had sent me. This was long ago. He had sent me a script for this, and he was like, I need someone to clean this up.
Gotcha.
Because English isn't his first language. It's probably like his third language or something. I don't know, but his English is actually really good for his situation. Can't imagine they speak much English where he lives, but
yeah, I couldn't either. But yeah, you never know, I guess.
But I got the Linux version of this game. When I bought it, it comes with both versions. So I tried out the PC version. And I was like, yeah, this is a really freaking cool game. And then I noticed that he had a Linux version. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this on the VCS and see how well it works. Because I already had my dev unit by then. So I put it on the VCS and it ran wonderfully. So I was like, yeah, this is great. I was like, and so I talked to him. I was like, you ever consider putting this on the VCS? He's like, sure, why not? And so I gave him the information for contacting business development, and he never heard back from him.
Oh, geez.
So, and I mean, that's happened with a few people.
Yeah.
The business development at Atari can be a little wishy-washy, but
I feel like every part of Atari can be a little wishy-washy.
I was gonna say similar to the customer service and the yeah.
So I was like, I already have access to the platform, and I already know the game runs. So, what if I release the game on the platform? Since I already had access. So he was like, sure. And then one thing led to another, and wow, what do you know? I'm a publisher now.
Wow.
So, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take this to the next level. I'm going to actually make a publishing company.
Wow.
And I messed around with a few ideas for names and whatnot. I already knew what I was doing, so that wasn't a problem.
Right.
And then I don't know how I came across the name Lucid Potato, but I was just like, obviously potatoes are my thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And how about a potato that's halfway awake? So
right.
It's like, yeah, let me look up the name for that. It's like Lucid Potato. Like, yes, that's perfect.
Wow.
Just kind of rolls off the tongue.
So Lucid Potato is your publishing company. Will that be the name that you develop under on the VCS2, or will that be under a different?
I'm heading in that direction, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I do have a studio name, which is Crimson Lace. But to be honest, I'm not really all that tied to that name.
Okay.
And ever since going from Lucid Potato Publishing to Lucid Potato Games, which is the name of my publishing firm, it's like, I think this works well enough as a name to be both a publisher and a studio. So I'm gonna be doing it as both under Lucid Potato Games.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Yeah, because it would definitely make it easier for people already familiar with this to kind of And on the VCS, that does happen to kind of find your other games, because I know there's a few developers I've met or learned from by the VCS, and I like to search for their other games. And when I see they've published or released something new, I like to download and get them. So yeah, I definitely want to keep an eye out for more Lucid Potato stuff on here, because this game is awesome. Like you said, it's got a cool art style. It's fun to play. It's old school, but also it's got a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
very
it's
cool.
it's a very visually noisy game,
Yeah.
and that was actually one of the things that first drew me to it.
Yep.
Because I mean, just the animations that are going on at all times are just absolutely nuts, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of, like, you remember like the Newgrounds games,
Yep.
with all the old Flash
Yep.
games. It kind of looks like that kind of thing,
It
but
does.
but you know, a lot more modern, you know.
Yep.
And the art style is very, very, very. I want to say it's kind of like a clean dirty, if that
Yep.
makes any sense. Like, I mean, it's a very dirty style, but you can tell what's going on all the same, you know.
Right. Oh yeah, I think for this game that makes good sense. So very cool game. It's awesome that you've gotten into the publishing side and you're kind of helping people on the VCS, because I have heard before from other people that it's kind of hard sometimes to get the Atari to answer you when it comes to getting your games on the VCS and stuff. So it's awesome that you're helping people in that regard, and hopefully it'll bring more excellent games to the platform here. Now, what can we expect from you on the VCS coming up here? What's your next planned game?
Well, my next release on the VCS is going to be the port of FX Unit Yuki, the Henshin Engine Recode, which is the PC Engine version of the game remade for the PC. And it has a little bit of Atari exclusive content in it. I won't say what it is, obviously.
Oh, nice.
Excited for that.
Right.
And it's the full game as originally envisioned by Saramaru. Because when we did the PC Engine original, we were constantly running into space problems. And so a lot of the content had to be cut.
Oh, wow.
And so the Recode version includes all of the content that was cut. And I mean literally all of it.
Wow.
You know, it's the complete game as intended by Saramaru.
That's awesome.
And there's all kinds of there's like some new animations. There's a lot of bug fixes, and it's just a better game, you know.
Yeah, it just looks like an awesome game. But I see like what looks like a game I used to play, Wonder Boy and Monster. Yes. Yeah, it almost looks like that here. And then I see elements of Castlevania in it. I see elements of Cotton. It looks like almost. I mean,
yep,
just an incredible homage to classic TurboGrafx games, I'm sure, but also gaming in general. So this looks like a fantastic game. I can't wait to see it on the VCS, and very exciting. So if you already own it, there's good reason to double dip, because you got exclusive content and the game as originally envisioned. So awesome stuff there. And again, so it's been a pretty easy port.
This one had some challenges in the fact that this the game engine that I used to develop this game is one that is in-house and uses some libraries that the VCS does not have. So it was a struggle for a while to figure out exactly what I had to include in the distribution to make the game run. And that's where I was, you know, I had the experience with that other developer who helped me get this game on the platform. And once that was done, the rest, it just kind of blew the doors wide open. Anything I make with my game engine is going to work on the VCS. And I do mean anything.
That's
so
awesome.
That was a good outcome.
And we love, again, seeing these games just get introduced to a wider audience. Because again, maybe like somebody like me who isn't familiar with the Turbo graphic scene or PC Engine scene, I now have an introduction to it, and that, you know, who knows what that leads to, but it can only lead to better things for the game players like myself, and also hopefully the developers such as you. And
I also think that like the quality of the titles that you're bringing to the platform, you know, could even be inspiring to other developers to not just put like their shovelware on the VCS, but put something, you know, quality on the system.
That's one of my hopes too. It's like I understand and I respect people's efforts, but I think I'm kind of a perfectionist myself, and I always think that, you know, we can always strive to do better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even for me, looking back at my old work, is like, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. I could have done this better, you know. So I'm always trying to up the bar, and I hope that other people, you know, would see that and do the same. You know, that's my hope.
Absolutely. So we have another game here to show off.
Oh, yes, Nyanja.
Nyanja, yep.
Yes, this one is also going to be on the VCS. It may be a little bit afterwards, but I am developing both versions of this game side by side. The PC Engine original and the PC version are both being developed at the same time. PC Engine version obviously a lot more along because we started that one first. But since I'm using my game engine, the same game engine that the Yuki port works on, is going to be responsible for the PC port of Nyanja as well. So bring that to the VCS is going to be the exact same process as bringing Yuki to the VCS.
Gotcha.
So it's not going to be a problem at all.
Will this also include any VCS exclusive content when it gets released to the platform? Awesome.
Yes, this will have VCS exclusive content.
And so this looks more arcadey maybe than the previous game. Is that, if you had to describe it, like what genre of game does this fall into?
This is an arcade platformer. Platformer. Specifically, it's a single screen arcade platformer. The main inspiration for this was Bubble Bobble and Snow Brothers.
Gotcha.
That's where he got his inspiration from, and he wanted to use his character Myanmaru, who is the cat in blue. This is his oldest character. It goes back, I don't know, maybe 15 years.
Wow.
And he's drawn up, you know, several different like mock-ups for different games that he would put Myanmaru in. But he could never find a developer willing to make a game with him. He couldn't find a programmer because he's not a programmer himself. And since I'm so stubborn, I was like, all right, I'll take it on. So.
Well, it looks like a very fun game. And again, a single screen action platformer right up Atari players' alley. We, of course, love our classic arcade games that we had back in our childhood and stuff. So very exciting stuff coming forward from you here on the VCS, and we're looking forward to it all. Do you have any idea or any projected release dates for either of these titles, or will they just come when they come?
It really depends on the business development at Atari, because Yuki is going to be submitted for release very, 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 very soon, probably within the week.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just going to depend on how long it takes for them to, you know, move it from the submission to the marketplace, because they have to do their QA, and, you know, it has to pass that. And so then they set a release date, and, you know, they try to release like a few games at a time. So it's going to be part of a particular release schedule. And then Nyanja is going to be going to Kickstarter in April. And we're looking at probably a May or June release for the PC Engine version, depending on how well the Kickstarter goes. And the PC end, the PC version shouldn't be far behind, because like I said, I am developing them side by side. And so once the PC version is done, I make the slight adjustments that I need for the VCS version, which isn't much, to be honest. It's not much at all to change.
Wow.
And then I will put that in the submission queue, and go through the QA, and then they set up a release date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully this summer we'll see a VCS release of Ninja. And then other works for the future, I do have a traditional RPG in the works. I'm not sure when that's going to be finished. That's quite a bit of a bigger project.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's also Tater Fam, which is my game that's similar to Nyanja, which is, a single screen platformer. You throw things at enemies, you knock them around, that kind of thing. Wow. But it features my potato family.
Wow. Well, we're looking forward to that, especially our RPG. I have to imagine that's a huge undertaking, especially if, are you just doing that alone by yourself? Are you doing all the elements of the RPG on your own, or do you have people working with you as far as art and audio, that sort of thing?
I'm pretty much going it alone. I don't draw, so I rely on external resources. Like all the character sprites are from the Limited Pixel Cup, or the LPC as they call it. And there's a character generator online that lets you create your own map characters. And like the world building is all done with these sets of tiles that were made by this guy called the Inquisitor back in 2005. And I've never seen them used in any other game. So I was like, it'd be a total waste to just, let these go, to, not to use them in anything. So I started using that set of tiles to build the world itself.
Wow. And
things like the animated enemies, I do all that stuff myself.
Okay.
That's done with, I actually use Unity for it. I will build 3D models, or I will generate 3D models depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes I use Make Human for it. Sometimes I use a Pro Builder inside Unity itself to make enemies, which takes a while, but it's worth it. And then I will do all the various animations, use the Unity recorder, to export all the frames. And then that's what goes into the game.
Wow.
So it is a lot of work, but it's worth it.
I always wondered about that too, because somebody like myself who can't draw, has no artistic ability at all, I wondered if I were to ever make a game, how I would get the art. So that's kind of a cool inside look that people have kind of made it possible for people who maybe don't have the best artistic talent. That's good insight. I was curious about that.
So we know what you're developing, and it sounds like it's going to be a really great year for the VCS with your releases coming out. But you mentioned too that you're, now doing publishing. So do you have any projects in mind that you're looking to publish, or any developers that maybe they've got a game release that you're thinking you could work with them to bring it to the VCS?
Yeah, there's a couple of them actually. First of all, Sketchy Ceviche has another game that's coming out soon. I don't know if it's soon, but he does have another game that he's going to be releasing. And I don't remember exactly what it's called, El Boletero, something like that. But it's a space ticketer. I think he called it. You like bring people to a bus stop, and you use this weird grappling hook type thing to get around the level. It's really, really strange. It's really unique. I've never seen anything quite like that before.
Oh, wow.
And there was another developer that was brought up to me that I'm starting to look into now. I can't really say much about him yet because, I've yet to really reach out to them and just kind of exploring what they have going on. But it's a fairly big developer. They've got they've got games on Steam, on Switch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so actually it's slightly intimidating for me to approach such a large developer like that who already has, a big established like development history. But if I'm ever going to grow as a publisher, then I need to actually take that risk, So my plan in the next few months is to try to, get them to publish on the VCS as well.
Awesome. Love to hear that.
It's a pretty big ask, I think, too, to, ask people to port their games to VCS. Maybe they might not see the incentive of it. Like, I don't know what the user base numbers are. Do you, John?
Not great. One thing, it depends what their goals are, I guess, because if you're looking to make a lot of money off a game, unfortunately, I just don't think it's viable to release on the VCS. However, if you're looking to, again, like you said, maybe expand, looking for another platform that's easy to port to, it might be worthwhile to bring your games to the VCS. But yeah, the numbers aren't great, if I'm honest, as far to my understanding.
It'd be great if we could get an RPG from a developer put on VCS, because it's really hurting for that genre in particular.
And that's what I'm hoping to do. So
yeah,
and I did see that there was someone who was trying to put out an action RPG on the VCS, but I don't know much about it.
It's been fantastic to learn about these great releases coming up, and we hope to see some great things get published as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're excited to have you on the console as both a developer, especially as a publisher. I think, hopefully with you publishing and offering your services there, we can get a good variety of games and titles on the VCS. So that's very exciting too. But we're so glad to have you as a part of the not only VCS but the Atari community now. And we can't wait to see what else you bring to the platform. And I can't wait to play FX Unit Yuki. Hopefully that'll be one of the next games I'm buying and playing on the VCS here very soon. So thank you so much for your time, Tater Pants. I appreciate it. Lucid
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Lucid Potato Games on the VCS. Keep an eye out for that publishing development company. Braillynn, person who breathes air, thank you so much. It's great finally collaborating with you on the channel. Hopefully we can do some more things and get your Atari computer expertise featured here on the channel. I think it would be huge for us to have more of that on here. So I think with that, there's only one thing left to say, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. And remember to stay classy, Atarians.